This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good morning, Tuscaloosa. Internet world, how we doing today on a Tuesday? It's The Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central, BamaCentral.com. Hope you and yours are doing well. We're live in the Derek Daniel State Farm Studios right here off of McFarland Boulevard. We're hanging out with you on the Bama Central YouTube channel, on the Bama Central Facebook page. You're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. We're looking very Midwest coded today with my Chicago Bears sweatshirt, and Theo Fernandez is wearing himself a Notre Dame Fighting Irish hat. So we're very Midwest coded today. But we are going to talk about Alabama sports because the Alabama basketball team continues to have a little drama surrounding Charles Bediako, trying to file for appeals and trying to find injunctions and get back on the court for the Crimson Tide. This thing's going to go all the way through the rest of the season, so we'll talk about that. To start with, we will highlight our friend Hunter De Siver has written a great piece on Amari Allen. He basically sat down with Amari for a little bit of time, sat down with Preston Murphy and a lot of other people to write about Amari Allen, so we'll talk about that as well. We'll have a lot of fun with you guys on the Bama Central Facebook page. You can leave us a comment right there. You can leave us a voicemail at 205-462-7340, extension 800. And boy, I'm so glad to be back in the seat in the Derek Daniel State Farm Studio. Call Derek for all of your insurance needs at 205-758-3391. And of course, visit roofturtle.com to check out Purple Turtle Roofing for all of your roofing needs. They'll come out, give you a free roof inspection. So visit them at roofturtle.com for their roof inspections and all their services that they can offer you all throughout the Southeast. So we appreciate Purple Turtle Roofing for sponsoring the program as well. Going to be a huge Tuesday. We're going to talk to Nate Oates midday. Alabama baseball is going to be in action tonight against Southern Miss, and Theo Fernandez is going to be covering it for us at Bama Central. Follow him at Theo Fernandez _. Good morning, Theo. I told you this yesterday remotely, but I'll tell you in person. Major thanks for stepping in on Thursday and Friday. It's never easy just to jump in and do something a little bit new. I mean, it's not quite all new, but flipping roles is a little bit different. So I appreciate your effort. You're on time. You put the shows out. You wrote the shows. You got everything going. You dealt with some technical issues, and you handled it like a boss. So I really appreciate it. Follow Theo Fernandez at Theo Fernandez _. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Joe. Thank you. I'm not a Notre Dame fan. I enjoy wearing the hat. It's a nice logo.
It's a great logo. Classic.
I like it. So no affinity for Notre Dame in this. Just a cool thing to wear. Got to clarify that first. But yeah, no, it's been a good start to the week. Alabama baseball heading to Hattiesburg. I really wish I was going there, man. Joe, you remember from last May, Hattiesburg had some of the best pregame food we are ever going to get at a sporting event, man. They know how to cook down there. I wish I could go there, have some good food, watch some fun baseball. I'll be covering it remotely, so follow along for Alabama baseball's first road test of the year, first ranked test of the year, rather. And it's on the road. It'll be a tough game. It'll be a fun one, though.
Absolutely. So you'll be able to follow that today on Theo's social media machine. And, of course, at Bama Central, he's going to have a written piece for us right there as well. But, Theo, let's talk about the biggest news. Let's start with the biggest news that was yesterday and has kind of already got going this morning. Charles Bediako has filed an appeal with the Alabama Supreme Court. Has filed an appeal for Judge Daniel Pruitt's decision with the Alabama Supreme Court, and he asked for Daniel Pruitt to basically give him an injunction on his ruling while he waits for the Supreme Court. Well, this morning, Daniel Pruitt has turned down his request for an injunction which would have put him back on the court, in while his case was waiting to be heard by the Alabama Supreme Court. That has been denied. Daniel Pruitt this morning has denied his request for an injunction. So now Charles Bediako can ask the Alabama Supreme Court for an injunction on Daniel Pruitt's ruling while he waits on the case to be heard by the Alabama Supreme Court. That's going to be the obvious next logical step. But you're playing with timing here. You're playing with all kinds of things. But really, the Charles Bediako camp is trying to get this injunction and trying to have this heard in front of the Alabama Supreme Court so that he can play again. But in reading yesterday, the reason he waited to file this appeal to yesterday, day before, this weekend, basically Monday morning, is because he's one, he thinks he can win it, or he thinks he can have it won. But two, I think the reason that he waited was because the case probably wouldn't be heard for another 5, 7, 8 weeks or so. And so, and thus, you look at the calendar of the season. You look at the how much time is left on 4 regular season games, SEC and NCAA tournament. You're looking at about 7 weeks left in the year, 8 weeks left in the year, and so there's a little bit of finessing the system a little bit, trying to finesse the system a little bit. Charles Bediako, well, if I can get my case heard and an injunction, it doesn't matter if they rule me ineligible in 8 weeks. I've played my the end of the regular season, the SEC tournament, and the NCAA tournament. So now he's waiting on, he's got to file for an appeal or file for an injunction with the Supreme Court. I'm sure he will do that today and try to get back on the court ASAP. And I thought we might have been done with all this, Theo.
No, we're never going to be done with all this, Joe. It's going to continue to drag out. I think my first takeaway is Daniel Pruitt, as the judge, is probably doing what is very within, his job description, right? He's probably making the correct decision on this. Good luck running for re-election this year, man. He is up for re-election in 2026, this November. You got to imagine that some of those Tuscaloosa voters are going to take that into account, right, when it comes time to go and vote. I mean, I'm not advocating for it. I'm not saying we should make our political decisions based off of a basketball ruling, but knowing this fan base and knowing how it operates, you have to imagine a lot of voters are taking that into account when they go to vote. So Daniel Pruitt now out of the equation with this Bediako case. We listened to him lead the trial hearing a few weeks ago. We get this decision from him now. Moving on to the Alabama Supreme Court, and I don't know this to be a fact, Joe, but I'd imagine, if you don't get it from the Alabama Supreme Court, you take it to the federal, U.S. Supreme Court, right? That's generally how these things operate, right? Where you just, every time you get rejected, you just go to the highest level, right? So we've been to the circuit, we're going to the state, we'd go to the federal level, and you just keep throwing up shots, basically, right? Because this is the last year that you're ever going to have a case, right? We all know that there is no case whatsoever for Charles Bediako to play next year. So you're going all out to get him to play this year, right? And the University of Alabama, I presume, is fully covering all of these court cases, right? This isn't coming out of, Charles Bediako's pocket.
Well, I think I think a lot of it is. I think a lot of it is. Let's see. The Alabama put out a statement yesterday. Where is old Hunter's statement? Because Hunter tweeted it. Hunter's been all over it.
It was the same statement. It was
basically we're supporting we're supporting Charles Bediako and all the. We'll see what he has to do. Let's see. That's yesterday. Yep. Here we go. We understand that his statement from the university. We understand that Charles is pursuing an appeal in his case against the NCAA, and ultimately he must do what he considers to be in his best interest. The university continues to support Charles as he works towards completing his degree. I believe that he and his camp are handling a lot of these court costs and a lot of these fees. Yeah. Which, look, he's made $500,000 in his time as a G Leaguer. And if he is here, I'm sure if he gets back on the court, there's going to be some NIL that he can use for these court cases. I don't think that this case will get to the federal level just because of the timing. I think that this is the last gasp for Charles Bediako. And if he can have his court case be heard April 17,
That's
right?
perfect, right?
Right. April 12 was I think Final Four weekend is that first or second weekend of April. Let's see, because I know
Final
that I've
Four
got
is about April 5th, give or take
March.
a couple
Yeah,
days.
April 4th is the Final Four weekend. So the third is the Elite Eight, and then the third is the Final Four, and then the Monday is that championship game. So the 6th. So if he can have his case heard on April 8th, then he's set. But if they continue to deny, if his case is heard on April 8th and they don't give him an injunction right now, then it'll be all almost for nothing.
Yeah, so that's one of the things, right, that came up during his court case, during his hearing, was the idea of being paid retroactively for the NIL earnings that he wasn't able to get. So there is a world where he gets a court hearing and they say, oh, you know what, we kind of should have let you play basketball. Here's some money that you would have earned NIL wise. And one of the things that was brought up in the courtroom was, well, we have no idea what that money would have been. We have no idea how much money I lost out on. I'm potentially losing out on by not being allowed to play, right?
Sure.
We know that, when a team is, like you guys saw Mark Sears during the March Madness commercials, right? Those are commercials you're only in if your team is making a deep run. And that's an extreme example because Mark Sears was such a high-level, well-known figure in last year's tournament. But like there are additional opportunities that come up late in the season, right? In the postseason, in March Madness, and especially a guy comes out and has a big performance, there's more money on the table. So that is a correct statement that we don't know how much Bediako would potentially be making if he were playing basketball right now. That is objectively a correct statement. So I think that's one of the big arguments for why he believes he should be, or why his camp is trying to say he should be able to play, right? Because you can't make up the financial compensation after the fact. That was not ruled as being enough to justify him playing.
So is this going to hijack Nate Oates' 12:30 press conference today?
Oh, Joe, come on. We know this.
We're not going to talk about Mississippi State, Josh Hubbard, guarding Josh Hubbard, going for your 7th win in a row. We're not going to talk about conference standings, SEC, seed line for the NCAA tournament, 3, 4, 5 seed, 6 seed.
It really was going to be such an uneventful press conference, right? Coming off a boring game, coming into a pretty dead matchup. Yeah, I mean, we just, you know how this is going to go, right? We were looking before the Tennessee game, right? Before a game that big, and Nate Oates had to ask the people if they had any Bediako or any non-Bediako questions.
I had one. I gave him the only one.
Yeah. After he asked for him.
Exactly. Well, I raised my hand, and I had that. I was like, am I going to ask him about Nate Mint, or am I going to keep this Bediako stuff going? And I just felt wrong not continuing the Bediako question line. And so I went Bediako, and then at the end he goes, well, anybody got Tennessee questions? And I asked, well, what about Nate Mint? And he went there. Yeah, so this is going to hijack the whole afternoon.
Yes.
And like, what was it, 3 weeks ago when this all happened originally? 3 or 4 weeks ago when it happened originally, and he can we just replay that press conference? Well, I support Charles Bediako because we do this. Any former player in this situation, we support. He's still in his 5-year window. He going for his degree. We support all our players getting their degree. And look, it can help Charles. The development in the G League is just not very good. He's lost weight. Look at him. He's here this semester trying to gain weight, trying to regain some of his development and be healthy. The travel's really hard on you in the G League. And, it's not an advantage to go to the G League. It's an advantage to stay in college. And if you got other guys, all these other players and programs are playing have pros. So they're eligible. Charles should be eligible too.
We know exactly what we're gonna hear, man. I mean, you're spot on. Like, we've heard Nate Oates give the same answer 4 times. It's gonna be a 5th today. Like, Hunter De Siver could reuse the exact same quotes, like you said, man. I mean, is there anything new we could possibly hear? I guess that's what we have to do from now until it's 9:30. We have 3 hours until this press conference, more like 3.5 with when Nate Oates shows up. Like, we have to think about how can we ask him a question that'll get us something new, anything new, answer-wise, and I don't know what that question will be.
I don't either. So that's really where I want to leave it, because you're just kind of in a holding zone with Charles Bediako of, is he going to get an injunction from the, because really he needs the Alabama Supreme Court to give him an injunction so that he can play during these 6 or 8 weeks or stretch until they actually have the hearing. Because if they don't give him an injunction and then they schedule the hearing for April 8th, April 10th, April 5, whatever the case may be, he's going to still be on the sidelines, and they're going to say, well, you should have won. And maybe he'll get some retroactive money, as you said. And I mean, yeah, that's worth something, but it's not quite the same as getting on the floor and going, 12-6.
Hey, he'd probably finally be able to afford tuition at the University of Alabama, though, right?
That's exactly right. Let's spin this just a little bit, because I have been so impressed, and we talked about it a couple times in the last few weeks. I've been so impressed with Aiden Sherrell's play, basically post Bediako decision. Do you even need him if you're Alabama basketball? Do you need Charles Bediako?
You want him. I mean, I think you do. I think you do need him. I think that we talked yesterday about just how absolutely essential it would be for Aiden Sherrell to stay out of foul trouble in all these big games, which is something he hasn't shown an ability to do. And when we get into these really big matchups late season in the SEC tournament, in March Madness, do we really trust? Do we really think that Aiden Sherrell can go play 32 minutes without getting into significant foul trouble on a regular basis? I don't know. I think that Bediako, I do think he unlocks the spacing on the floor still better than Sherrell. Sherrell's been better offensively, but he's never been much of a lob threat, and that's not going to change. He's doing good things offensively, but he's doing them differently than Bediako. I still think that Bediako unlocks something. First of all, on the offense that Sherrell doesn't provide, and then second off, giving Sherrell some relief. Playing 26 minutes instead of 34 is a massive, massive difference. And being able to, even the idea of, oh man, like we're halfway through the first half, I just picked up my second foul. Well, it's like, okay, if we pull you, it means either Bull Bowen's playing center or we got to run Noah Williamson for a stretch. You might risk keeping Aiden Sherrell in the game a little longer, or you might bring him back in sooner, and then you pick up a third foul, and then that really throws off the dichotomy of the second half. Meanwhile, if you have Bediako, you don't have to risk playing a guy with a bunch of fouls. So I still think that Charles Bediako would do some big things for this team.
All right, so one way this press conference could twist just a little bit, Theo, is getting Nate Oates to respond to his selection. Coach Nate Oates was selected as part of the 2026 USA Basketball Men's Under-18 National Team. He was chosen with a couple. He's going to be chosen coaching along with Colgate's Matt Langle. And did you see the head coach?
Yes, I did.
Head coach Anthony Grant. Head coach Anthony Grant and assistant coach Nate Oates, and then Matt Lingle of Colgate. They will be going in the 2026 FIBA Under-18 Men's America Cup from June 1st to June 7th. So he's going to be taking a conglomerate of American All-Stars, a young American All-Stars, to the FIBA U18 Men's America Cup in the middle of the summer. Great for Nate Oates. Good for Alabama. Good for Alabama, because you can take this into living rooms. This can help continue maybe battling some of the NIL issues that you have as an Alabama program by saying, here, give us some of the Nate Oates discount because he was the U18 USA coach.
I saw someone tweet that this Team USA U18 squad is going to lose to LaSalle at home. I don't know if you've seen how Anthony Grant's season is going over at Dayton, Joe, but they have been one of the biggest disappointments in the nation in the Atlantic 10. Had some horrendous losses, and It is hilarious because I'm very much plugged into Atlantic 10 Twitter. It's my favorite conference to follow. And all the same stuff that was said about Anthony Grant at Bama is being said by these Flyers fans.
It's your favorite pause. It's your favorite conference to follow. Explain.
Okay, I'm from New York, right?
Sure.
I grew up going to Fordham Rams games I had season tickets growing up. My father worked right near the university. The Atlantic 10 tournament was at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. So from the time I was I think they first started playing there when I was in second grade, and went just about every year after that through the beginning of high school, and it finally moved away. And I love the Atlantic 10, man. I've been to these games forever. I love following VCU, Davidson, whatever, Rhode Island with Danny Hurley had some phenomenal years. So whatever Atlantic 10 team is going on a run this year, this magical season from John Schertz and St. Louis, I love the conference. I'm an A10 truther. We should be a 3-bid league. We will get back to that standard. Fordham is having a great year, but Dayton is one of the biggest programs in that conference. Anthony Grant running things there. I don't know if I've openly talked about this on the show, but I love the Atlantic 10. It is the best conference in the nation.
Well, there we go. A10 superiority over the SEC.
Should start tweeting about the A10 more.
You'll get some responses, I'm sure.
I tried, I played into it a little bit when Rhode Island baseball was here last week, and it didn't pick up at all. But believe it or not, A10 baseball doesn't get much traction.
So hard to believe.
Yeah, no one saw that coming.
Yeah. So Anthony, what? How will those coaching meetings go? Because Anthony Grant wants to just crawl up the floor and call out plays and dump the ball into the post and let the big guy bang in the post and maybe hit a mid-range jumper or two. And you've got Nate Oates, who is having his team run up and down the floor, 3 and D, run. And this is a slash to the hole, open up the spacing. What kind of style are they going to play?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Colgate basketball, Matt Langle being the other coach, Colgate plays a very slow Anthony Grant style offense in the Patriot League.
So he's going to get voted out.
Yeah, so Nate Oates is kind of the odd man out here. It's such a fascinating combo of coaches there. Matt Langle's been the head coach of Colgate since 2011. They've had they've been in the tournament a bunch out of the Patriot League. I don't know. I would love to hear more about how these three ended up being the guys on the staff, right? It is, you got to think it's great for Nate, though, being around all these high school recruits, like you alluded to earlier, Joe. You get a lot of FaceTime with these guys, and you're the only coach on the staff who's with a big program, right? And then you also are if I was Nate Oates on this staff, I would be the most laid back guy, right? I'd be the players guy. I'd let Anthony Grant do all the real coaching, and I'd just kind of sit back and try to get as close to these players as possible.
So there we go. Nate Oates is taking on a secondary role this summer, representing the U.S. of A.
They still haven't announced a location for it, but I think they'll probably going to be somewhere pretty tropical. It'll probably be a pretty fun place to be for a week.
There we go. That'll be great. Watch these young guys play, and maybe Nate Oates can sneak in and get himself some extra talent for the upcoming season. All right. I want to spin us here just a little bit because I don't have much on this Tuesday. I'm still kind of getting my bearings straight. I drove back from Nashville yesterday, and I basically was pooped at that point because we had such a fun time in New York, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful city and so much to do. But by the time I got back last night, I was done. My brain went unplugged. So we're still trying to get locked in. I want to take some time and look at Hunter De Siver's piece this morning because I know Hunter put in a lot into this piece. If you've got some time, and this is going to take you a little bit of time because it is Hunter's long feature. If you don't remember, last year Hunter De Siver wrote the Labaron Philon feature that included his childhood drawing of "I want to play for Alabama," and really got some national traction. It got mentioned on a lot of Alabama basketball broadcasts. Hunter did a really great job with it. So this is his kind of, we're coming back, new year, new freshman, new feature, and it's on Amari Allen. And he basically takes you through Amari Allen's journey to Alabama, all the way through IMG, going back to Grand Rapids, and then coming to Alabama, and kind of how it's setting up this year, how he is surprising a lot of scouts as well. So because I think that Amari Allen, when he came here, probably not considered a one and done guy. Obviously, there's still 4 more games to go, but looking like a one and done guy, looking like a mid first round pick, maybe flirting with the lottery kind of first round pick. And of course, he could slide. People, draft boards change a lot, but he looks like he is a projected first round draft pick. Yeah. So really, I want to encourage everybody to read to read this piece. Yeah, he is number 26 on ESPN's big board of top 100 talent. So 26, he's ahead of Tyler Tanner. He's ahead of what other names might be? He's ahead of Braden Smith. You remember from Purdue. He's ahead of Malik Thomas from Arkansas, who we saw come in here and have a really great game. He's ahead of Alex Condon from Florida. So a lot of NBA buzz around Amari Allen, and just what have you made of his season so far? And I know you've already read Hunter's piece.
Yeah, there's one of the most fascinating things from this piece that was really Hunter really dove into was, first of all, it came down to Alabama and Minnesota, and Minnesota was really pursuing Allen hard. Allen, he dominates his freshman year, right, out of high school in Wisconsin, transfers to IMG, doesn't really play, has an injury. And Preston Murphy and the Alabama staff, they take notice of him. They're offering him, and Allen, after, it was actually really cool. He had a younger brother born his junior year of high school.
Nice. Wow, so, big age gap.
Big age gap. So anyway, he goes back home mostly because of that, right? More so, he was kind of primed for a bigger role at IMG, moves home to Wisconsin. He's from Green Bay. And he goes out, dominates, right? He averages, I think it was 34, 12, and 8.5 his senior year. Wins Wisconsin Player of the Year. But before that, then that rose his stock so much. But he'd already committed to Alabama before the season. So it really dives into the, Alabama talks him into committing, convinces him that, hey, man, we think you can play here. You don't need to go to Minnesota. You can play at Alabama. And he liked the idea of, Nate Oates turns guys into NBA players. But it kind of dove into how the confidence wasn't there necessarily.
Right.
Entering the senior season. Then he dominates, and he's Gatorade Player of the Year, and he realizes he can play. And, he comes to Alabama, and everything just starts lining up. And that was really cool seeing, I think, because the theme of the article is Amari Allen being underrated, right? And it talks about he's been underrated just about his whole life as a basketball player. And he underrated himself. And that's been really cool to see, because you look at the level of confidence that Amari Allen plays with, right? He is a confident basketball player on the court for the Crimson Tide. And he does not carry himself like a freshman, right? That's what makes him such a, breath of fresh air on this team, is that he is just a guy who plugs in, and he does all the hard stuff. He does all the gritty stuff. He has the most hard hats on the team this year, but he carries himself like a veteran. And that is why I look at Amari Allen and I look at his NBA stock. If I was an NBA GM, I would take him in the lottery. I would take him over Labaron Philon. I think he's a better NBA draft prospect than Philon, because I think he is ready to plug in to any role on an NBA team and contribute. I think Labaron Philon will struggle a little bit with the adjustment right away, as far as, going back to, we saw him as a bit of a role player his freshman year, but he's so much more naturally suited to be a feature of a team's offense. Amari Allen, look at what he does. I mean, you're fifth in the SEC in rebounding at 6'8", right? As a freshman forward, you have shown an ability to have, scoring nights where you go out and you score the buckets that the team needs you to score, right? You're not going out scoring 25, but you're giving a very, very solid 12 a night. You've shown a pretty good playmaking ability, right? You have pretty good court vision for a freshman. And you do all the sorts of things that do translate to the next level. Amari Allen to me looks like a guy who can get drafted to a team that's either a team that's building something or a team that's already there and it's just looking for another piece to add to go on a playoff run. He's the kind of guy who plugs in and it's just like the instant, like, oh, fan favorite. This guy personifies toughness. We like what he does. He's a great spark plug off the bench. I think Amari Allen has so much potential at the next level because of the brand of basketball that he plays.
Yeah, I mean, he's shown the ability to shoot, not only shoot a three-pointer, but a really, really good knack for rebounding, and really the ability to guard 1 through 4 is a little is a little stretchy, but really 2, and 3 for sure, and some 4. I would say probably 2, 3, and 4 he can guard. Sometimes 4. It depends on who the 4 is, really. But he's not a defensive liability by any means, and he's still just so young. And you know how it is with the NBA is that it's a lot based off potential. Well, he's shown, I think, really strong and high potential on a team where he's not even the first option. He's not even really the second option, and he's sometimes barely the third. You go Labaron, Aiden Holloway, Latrell Wrightsell as basically your 1, 2, 3 scorers, and then it becomes there's also Amari Allen out there who is, if you leave him alone, he can make that 3-pointer, or if you leave him alone, he can get that offensive rebound. He's got a lot more skill than Houston Millette, but a lot. But man, maybe his motor's not not as high as Houston's.
No,
but it's close. It's close to me. I think it's in the ballpark. But his skill is much more than Houston's. I agree with you that Amari will end up being a better and longer term pro than Labaron Philon.
It's funny when you look at slightly, changing gears, but looking at his NBA potential, right? I fully believed that Labaron Philon made the right move coming back.
Oh, yes.
This year. Because Labaron Philon, I think, was a prospect who needed to show what he could do leading a team. Amari Allen has shown everything he could possibly need to. Amari Allen is the kind of guy who gains very little from the idea of, okay, yeah, I'm going to come back and show people that I can average 20 in college. Because at the end of the day, your role in the NBA is the reason that you are being looked at as such an intriguing prospect is because, first of all, people can already tell that you have the ability to be a scorer, to be a leader of an offense, right? Because you've shown it in spurts, in flashes. You're going to be drafted so high because of all the other stuff that you do. And you've already shown that so well. Coming into a situation where you're on a nationally ranked team and just excelling in so many. I mean, you're leading the team in rebounding. Like I said, you're 5th in the conference right now, getting boards. You're taking on the top defensive assignments. You are scoring some really big buckets. And one of the things the article said from Hunter that was really cool that Amari told him at a one-on-one interview was that he's always dreamed of being a one-and-done player. He's gone. I would be stunned if Amari Allen is back on this team next year. And he shouldn't be. He's ready to go. He's ready to be an NBA player.
Well, these mock drafts that are all out here on every major page, NBA Draft Room, ESPN, CBS Sports, you got USA Today. The only one of these that has to mention is ESPN. USA Today did a full first round mock with a couple guys. They didn't have him on here. The number one NBA DraftRoom.com didn't have him on here. So you've got maybe still underrated from at least the draft community. We'll see what the GMs and what the actual decision makers think here in a couple months. You can bet for sure that Amari is going to declare for the NBA draft, and you can bet for sure that he is going to go through the combine. He'll have that little caveat with like, we'll see if I maintain my eligibility, go through the draft combine and get his evaluations. And when enough teams tell him, well, we think you might be there at 20. We'd like to take you at 20. We'd like to take you at 18. He's going to think his decision is like, look, LeBaron's decision last year was, am I going to be a mid to late second round pick / undrafted free agent? Because I think there was still a chance that he was an undrafted free agent. Or am I coming back to try to become a first round pick, borderline lottery guy? Amari's decision is going to be a little bit different, because I think that he's going to have enough people that tell him, oh, we'll take you at 25, we'll take you at 20, we'll take you at 22. And he's going to have to decide, do I want to go ahead and go at 22, or do I want to come back and try to become a lottery pick as a sophomore? And so his decision is going to be a little bit different than LeBaron's was last year.
Yeah, and one of the other things, so I guess Labaron was a bit of an interesting case because...
Well, Coach Oates keeps saying he would have been a second-round pick last year. He would have been a second-round pick, but very few mock drafts had LeBaron even getting drafted.
So the thing is, like, I think LeBaron would have been drafted last year, partly because it was a very weak draft class. To the point where I was somewhat surprised that LeBaron was going so far back. You know, like, I thought he had a chance to play his way into the first round. And I mean, the fact that he's back here shows us that he wasn't going to be. It's weird for Amari Allen because, first of all, this is a very strong draft class. This is a great draft class coming up, especially at the top, right? It's interesting because Allen right now is riding off of potential, right? In many regards, because you've shown that you have a pretty high floor as a prospect, and that is pretty intriguing with Amari Allen, especially if we're going just outside the lottery, right? And that is, I think he'll play his way into the lottery, but I do know there's a very solid shot that, you know, we're looking at going pick 18, pick 19. That's a spot where you're getting drafted by a playoff team, and they're already getting a guy who they think can be a day one contributor, right? One of the more ready guys to contribute, especially for a freshman, right? There are not many 19-year-olds who are going to instantly plug in and figure to be such a big piece of a team's offense as Amari Allen is, especially that late in the first round. Sometimes, you know, you look at a hypothetical where he comes back and plays, right? And he comes back for the 2026-27 season and just tears it up, right? He could have an all-SEC season. He could be in the mix for SEC Player of the Year, maybe even an All-American nod, right? That is the ceiling in college for a guy like Amari Allen, right? As the future of a team. You are a year older, and that hurts you so much more sometimes than the benefits that come from being a star player, right? Like, you are so young right now, and that is going to be part of the reason why you're drafted so high.
For sure.
I think Amari Allen is the kind of guy who goes into the, you know, pre-draft process and really just impresses teams. And the more teams look at him, you know, it'll start, I guarantee you, it'll start with, oh man, Amari Allen just made a big play or did some really good things down the stretch in a round of 32 game, which, yes, I do still think Alabama's fallen short of the Sweet 16, but I think Amari Allen will show some stuff in the tournament, right? And that's what first gets you noticed, you know, at the higher level, because I think people sometimes overestimate NBA scouts very heavily. I think they think that these guys are just all over everything, that they've watched all of these Amari Allen clips and they know all this stuff about. No, like, well, they're kind of behind on the process. And so much of it is done after the season.
Oh, right? Sure.
So, you know, a lot of this stuff that we, as, you know, people who watch Alabama basketball day in, day out, a lot of the stuff that we see about Amari Allen just hasn't made it out to everyone yet. And he's obviously a name that all these guys know, but maybe they haven't done the full deep dive, done the due diligence yet. He is a guy to me that absolutely rises in the pre-draft process.
Yeah, I think so, and especially in the when they do that open run of play, they basically do open gym at the NBA Combine. He's going to end up showing his versatility and showing that it probably doesn't really matter what group of other four that he's out there on the floor with. He's going to be able to find a way to be impactful, whether that's being a defender, whether that's being a scorer, whether that's being a rebounder, whether it's being a little bit of all of it, whether it's being a facilitator. I think he's going to be able to show how versatile he is with a bunch of random players. I mean, not random, but scoutable players, other prospects that he doesn't really have long-term chemistry with like he does with this Alabama team right now.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a place for him in the lottery. I tell you that. You know, one of the things I've seen, there have been people on Twitter calling Nate Ament the worst prospect of all time.
What?
Like people are saying, oh, this guy has no ceiling. Like that this guy's just
already at his ceiling. Okay.
Yeah. Like it's just NBA draft discourse is so bad, man. How do you watch this freshman?
He's good.
Tennessee, and I do think that his ceiling is relatively limited. But I think to go out, I don't like talking about ceilings of guys who are 19 years old and have never set foot on an NBA court. It's all speculative. To say that Amari Allen, we had a very long back and forth about you comparing Amari Allen to Grant Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Which I still think is ridiculous, right? But I also would not sit here and tell you that 19-year-old Amari Allen can't be an all-star level player. Like that's idiotic to try to do. It is nonsensical. It's people just looking for clicks and saying, yeah, I know that this 19-year-old who's never set foot on an NBA court can't be more than this, can't reach this level. No, you don't. You don't know that at all. I don't think Amari Allen will be an NBA all-star player. I don't. That's not a hot take at all. Most players aren't. You don't have to be an all-star player to be a good guy in the NBA. But that is me purely speculating. You know, I'm making educated guesses, right? I'm using what I've seen, and that's factoring into my take. But I'm not going to go out and say that, no, Amari Allen has no shot at reaching this level. So stop putting ceilings on guys, first of all. I don't know how I'm landing the plane there, but that's a take that has always annoyed me with NBA draft discourse.
You ready to be further annoyed?
Yeah.
So on Thursday, I called from the hotel room to leave a voicemail, and I got the whole thing loaded, and I sent the email, and then I closed the computer. It never went through, right? So you guys didn't play it. I was basically reacting to Alabama's game against Arkansas, and I was reacting to a tweet that I saw. This is not my take. I want to make that very clear. This is not my opinion. This is not my take. But I knew that if I threw it out at you guys, it would be like sharks in the water. I saw a tweet saying that Alabama, this was after the Arkansas game. Everybody watched the game. It was super exciting. 117, right, to 115. Yep. It was something right in that range.
That was the story.
So Alabama wins. Great. Awesome. And the tweeter, I wish I had the tweet. I'd give the credit to the handle. This is not my opinion. This is the tweeter basically was like, Alabama's going to be such an interesting team and such a difficult team to bracketology because on the right night they can be at 117 and they can shoot really well and they've got all kinds of talent on the floor, but just as Theo has outlined and you all seen over the last 6 weeks, really last 2.5 months, Alabama can also go out and not play well and not play physical and not rebound the basketball or turn the ball. Something can plague the team and in them and knock them out of the tournament on any given night. So the guy was like, this will be a really fun team and a really difficult team to project in the NCAA tournament. But he said, the reason why I like play while watching them is that Labaron Philon is the closest thing to SGA in college basketball. And I was like, on my voicemail, What do you think about that comparison? Because this is just after Labaron fouled out like how many players on Arkansas to really get into their depth. And I think once they were kind of out, the couple of players that weren't in rotation had to play. I think Arkansas was a little bit out of sorts. And even though it did still go down to the wire, I do think the foul trouble that the Razorbacks found themselves in was a huge part of the reason why they lost. So let me just throw that out there. The closest thing to SGA in college basketball, Labaron Philon. Agree, disagree, or just a reaction?
So I do see a little
from a Thunder fan. From a Thunder fan.
Like I've watched SGA play at least 30 games for his whole career, right? Since year 2 of his career. I see some younger SGA a little bit in Labaron. I think one of the things that throws people off about Labaron when they watch him is that he is the only player on the team taking any kind of mid-range shot, right?
True.
So I think, we look at SGA and the mid-range, just dominance and how good he is, artistic at getting those looks off. And Labaron, it feels a little skewed because Nate Oates is so firm about nobody else is taking these shots.
You got to earn the green light.
Labaron, you have the green light, which it's earned. He's a good mid-range player. He excels there. Some of his best offense comes in the mid-range. He's not as nearly as prolific, right, as SGA. And I don't even know if I'd call him the best mid-range shooter in the country. I just think it really stands out a lot more than some of these other guys because of the fact that here's a team that plays so fast-paced that is taking so many shots a game, and only one of them is shooting from mid-range. But yes, at face value, I see that comparison.
Okay.
And when Labaron is playing like he did against Arkansas, like he has at times this season where he's really attacking and getting to the free throw line and taking advantage of the very good whistle that he has, you see the comparisons. The problem is he doesn't do that nearly enough. The problem is that he's not nearly aggressive enough getting to the hole, attacking, get yourself off the 3-point line. Yes, you're shooting pretty good beyond the arc this year, but you're shooting a lot better when you attack, when you put yourself in a position to, look, I'm driving, I can pull up, I can get some separation, take the mid-range, or I can go to the hole and draw a foul. That is where you excel. That is where you are one of the best players in college basketball. That is where you have the ability to legitimately be SGA down the stretch this year. He is a gifted enough offensive basketball player where he could be doing that on a day in, day out basis. I think there's some truth to that take, but I think Labaron needs to do a better job of playing into it more.
Okay, interesting. All right, I was sure that you would. That's why I threw it out there, and I wanted to throw it out there for you and Henry because I thought that y'all would kind of tear it up a little bit. But I was my perception was that you would be like, no way, no way.
There's some, especially doing earlier.
Okay,
SGA, because SGA is just
he's continued to grow.
SGA is the most pure offensive player we've seen in the NBA since Kobe Bryant. I will die on that hill.
I don't think that's too crazy.
He is a near perfect offensive player right now.
Yeah, I don't think that's too wild.
If you look at SGA in like 2022, right, as he was still developing, as he was still growing, I see some more similarities. When SGA was truly so much more of just a mid-range guy, I see some comparisons.
Can Labaron get up to that level, that ceiling?
Yeah, I just went on a whole thing about how
exactly. Amari, we talked about Amari being a better pro. If Labaron gets to an SGA level, he will be a better pro.
You think? Yeah.
All right, Theo, let's get out of here for the day. You gotta make sure that you're covering Alabama taking on Southern Miss. What time? 4, 5 o'clock?
That's at 6.
6 p.m.
We got softball at 4, UAB.
Wow, you're going to be all over
No,
it.
I'm not going to softball. I'm just reminding the people.
Katie's going to be all over it. We're all going to be all over it. Alabama softball, Alabama baseball today. NATO's press conference here in a couple of hours. We'll talk maybe about Mississippi State. Alabama should keep things rolling tomorrow night here in Coleman Coliseum. We hope you all come and join us in Coleman Coliseum. We appreciate everybody who's joined us in the Derek Daniel State Farm Studios, and Derek for hosting us. Call him for all your insurance needs at 205-758-3391. Like a good neighbor, Derek Daniel is there. We appreciate Purple Turtle Roofing for sponsoring the program. Visit them online at roofturtle.com today for all of your roofing needs. You can schedule yourself a free inspection. They'll come check out your roof. Make sure that you have everything that you need to make informed decisions and to give you peace of mind in your home. I appreciate Theo Fernandez. Follow him at Theo Fernandez _. And again, read Hunter De Siver's piece on Amari Allen today. It's on BamaCentral.com. It's a nice deep dive on the freshman, on his journey, and on maybe what he could be down the rest of the stretch of the year. So we're going to have a lot of fun the rest of the day. We appreciate all you guys rating, subscribing, reviewing, sending the show to your friends, and we will talk to you again tomorrow right here on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central, BamaCentral.com.
Thanks for joining us on today's edition of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. Keep up with Joe on all his social media pages at Joe Gaither 6. Subscribe, rate, and review the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and be sure to read us daily at BamaCentral.com.